Witam serdecznie. Witam serdecznie, gdzie ja skończyłem... Gdzie ja skończyłem historię? Tak, rozmawialiśmy z tym kolesiem z Lombardu i on trochę poopowiadał odnośnie tego, w jaki sposób się tutaj znalazł, dlaczego jest w ogóle, znaczy jak to się stało, że prowadzi ten Lombard. Tutaj w ogóle wcześniej okazało się, że nawet widać te ślady, że jakiś samochód wyskoczył z dachu tego Lombardu. Widać nawet tam takie ślady. Jeszcze z tą dwójką ziomali, bo musiał pogadać. Co to jest? Nic. Ciężko się chodzi tutaj. Dziwnie, ja mógłbym przysiąc. Oni sobie grają ten... Co to? Aha. No ten co? Dobra, to po kolei. Lornetka na monety jest cała pobijana i niezdatna do użytku. Tylko nie pobruć miarki majonezem. Co to nam powie? Do północnego ronda. Do apartamentowca Półwysep i pomostu Martinez. Tutaj. Napis na reklamie głosi: zniszczone okna. Kupisz nowe u Tipsa. Gdybyś miał w ręce torbę, może mógłbyś wziąć te butelki i je sprzedać. Skąd torbę? Skąd to? Widziałem takie rzeczy i mówiłem. Słyszysz dalekie nawoływania morskich ptaków. Y. Zdobyłem przedmiot. Zobaczcie, co za przedmiot zdobyłem. Sorry. Pyk. Nie. Reklamówka. Tak jest. Będzie pokazane, co to tam dokładnie? Nie, dobra. No ale mogę zacząć zbierać butelki, tak. Że może to coś, tam jakaś kra w ogóle. Krew. Tu mnie interesowało. To za mural. Ściana poznaczona jest dziurami po nabojach. O. Ty kolego. Słuchaj, wyrzucali mnie z każdej knajpy w rewahalu jakimś. Rewahalu. Tu.
This coin-operated viewer is facing southwest. Its coin slot is full of fossilized bubblegum, rendering the machine permanently inaccessible.
Biedna lorneteczko, poklepią. Wandalizm, pokręć głową. Poklepuję.
The metal feels cold and wet under your palm. It looks unhygienic. A thick layer of graffito covers the lenses. You spell out the word Onuk written on the other side, with N and C scribbled backwards. Under the graffito, a sea of blues and greys appear. Behind the water lies a coast studded with concrete and reeds. On it, a church on stilts, lanky weather-worn wooden planks, an X-shaped cross topping its tower. The church looks old and weather-worn. There are no lights in the windows.
Jakoś tak po cichu to mówił, nie? Nie wiem. No, a tutaj co mi powiedzą?
This coin-operated viewer is facing south. The instruction manual says to insert 25 centimes and pull the handle while looking inside. Then use the focus knob to zoom in if necessary.
Nie stać nawet na to. Chłopie. Tutaj sobie pójdziemy. Butelki. Samotny kormoran wpatruje się w morze, obojętny na twoje przybycie. A jak to?
This is a wall on the side of an apartment building.
3%, to nawet nie ma co próbować. Mam cię, dzieciaku. Y. No ale zbieram pieniędzy. I tu cię mam.
Are you trying to sneak up on me? Come to slit my throat in my sleep?
Tak.
Pigs come to take me out, trying to snuff me out.
Jej głos staje się niemal niesłyszalny. Próbujesz mnie zgasić? Co ty w ogóle... No.
Then why are you sneaking up on me like that? It's not a good idea to scare me, pig. Not a good idea at all.
Jeny, jaki dzieciak. Wąż ogrodowy nie przyda się na nic, dopóki nie stopnieje śnieg. Tutaj co to jest? Żeby dostać się do budynku. Co w ogóle, jak on to powiedział dziwnie? Krzesła i stoły zniszczone przez deszcz i zgniliznę. Kolejna seria dziur po nabojach w ścianie. O,
The spread pattern of these bullet holes makes your chest ache. Your breath grows heavier.
Remnants from the revolution. These are over half a century old.
Aha, okej.
Perhaps a crime of a sort ages ago, but no, these do not warrant an investigation. Not much. I don't have a fresh perspective on it. Should we go?
No to idziemy. Y. I zebrałem. Ubranie. Co to? Pomarańczowa żulerska czapka. Aha. To retoryki. Retoryki. Beczki są wypełnione do połowy deszczówką. To tylko zamknięte drzwi, lecz spoglądasz na nie podejrzliwie. Zamknięte. Do góry jak się dostać, ciekawe. Jakoś się dostać. Nie. No, jakiś facet w ogóle stoi. Ja się patrzę w ogóle na te dzieciaki, jak rzucają w te zwłoki, nie? To ostro. Tutaj. Rue de Seine. Nie wiem, to północne rondo. Aha, bo to drogowskaz jest, to dobra. Apartamentowiec półwysep, dobra. Na środku widać ramę naprawionego motocykla i narzędzie, które posłużyły do jego rozebrania. Hej, tu na górze, prosiaku. Tam na górze jest dziewczyna, to ona wylała farbę? Zamknięte znowu. Zaraz tam przyjdę, to się zdziwisz. Zdaje się, że kiedyś, dziesiątki lat temu budowano... No to coś więcej. I co? Brzuch tej łodzi błyszczy, jakby został niedawno pomalowany. Cudownie, tylko dla Sumowanie tylko dla mieszkańców Rue de Seine. Twój pokój w Whirling nie jest wiele większy od tej łodzi. O! Nie, na wodzie zielone rośliny.
A striking woman leans
No
against
to
the cabin
kobieta.
top of her sailing boat, smiling as you approach. Her green raincoat glistens with droplets. A silk scarf is tied around her throat.
Good afternoon, officers. I'm Joyce.
Wyciąga dłoń w geście powitania.
Joyce L. Mercier. I represent the board of Wild Pines, the owners of the harbour. You gentlemen must be from the RCM.
Podchodzi i wyciąga rękę ponad barierką. Co oznacza L? Mor, co to jest? Co nas zdradziło?
Nothing, honestly. I've said it to every drunk in town, and you're the first one who's responded.
Okej.
What is implied here? That you're a drunk?
Beaton, my maiden name.
Jej koścista dłoń Lytton. Jej koścista dłoń zwisa z rękawa zbyt dużego płaszcza przeciwdeszczowego. Uścisnę.
I'm glad to see you here.
Jej uścisk jest mocny i chłodny.
Like steel. There is strength there. If she wanted, she could sink her nails deep into your skin.
I was dispatched to handle a strike, not a lynching. Anything I can do to assist the RCM in this matter, I will, gladly.
That is good to hear, madame. My colleague will take the lead on this interview. I should let you know that he is recovering from an unusual medical episode. Very unusual. But I can assure you of his ultimate competency.
There's a trace of irony in his voice. Mischief, even. The lieutenant is hatching some scheme.
How interesting. I wish you a swift recovery. In the meanwhile, you have my full cooperation, and the full cooperation of the Wild Pines group.
It's hard to get a read on her precise disposition, but she appears helpful.
Jest pani na łodzi. No to nie. Proszę powiedzieć mi.
What we do. I'm afraid I don't speak for Wild Pines as a whole. It's a giant undertaking. The Pines' core competency is logistics. Container shipping, freight, that sort of thing. See those airships there, blinking? Those are the shipping side of things. And that is the terminal. Another subdivision deals with energy, oil and gas exploration, offshore platforms.
O ile pieniędzy, co mnie to tak trochę interesuje.
I'm not at liberty to discuss the company balance sheet, but I can tell you that last year the company booked more than 20 billion real in revenue.
No. Ja mam 0,27.
A billion?
I to tyle. Myślałem, że Wild Pines to jakaś poważna sprawa. Takie liczby zupełnie nic mi nie mówią. Pieniądze, które jestem... To o wiele mniej. Orety?
$20 billion is a large number, but the conglomerate employs 72,000 people. They all need to be paid. Then there are capital improvements, interest payments.
W łódź uderza fala i kobieta łapie się sztagu. by nie stracić równowagi.
A conglomerate the size of the wild pines is like a shark. If it stops moving, it will die. Then what becomes of those 72,000 families? It's a tremendous responsibility. They started as an exploration and cargo fleet conducting trade between the Samaran and Insulindian Easterlers 250 years ago, when pine ships explored the South Seminese and charted Lomantang on behalf of the suzerain. Centuries of care, deliberation, and madness have gone into this endeavour. Vessels pass through the great unrest to re-emerge with apricots in tow. The logic of the system is totalizing. It's taken everything from its employees to build it. You mean aside from being the terminal's legal owners, who are responsible for moving 8% of the world's cargo? There are no minor cogs in the system. Each terminal must be accounted for, lest the entire system break. Every hiccup in such a system means thousands lose their jobs, the world over. I'm here to assure that doesn't happen.
A mogę X teraz kliknąć? Mogę. Wild Pines Felt Caprice nie wiem jak to przeczytać, dobra. I tak dalej, i tak dalej. Wspomnienie o Wild Pines sprawia, że nazwy rewacholskich indoszczepów pojawiają ci się w głowie. Królewskie monopole, ośmiornice i rekiny. Większość już nie istnieje. I tak dalej, i tak dalej, i tak dalej, i tak dalej. Ale czy jakiegoś nie brakuje? Nie no. Było ich 14, więc skąd wrażenie, że był jeszcze też 15 indoszczep?
With your help, hopefully, says her warm tone.
Everything. Right up to, but not including, trade secrets. I believe the official title is Senior Labour Negotiator. In practice, I'm a grocery clerk. I relay the union's demands to Wild Pines and return with Wild Pines' counteroffer.
And how are the talks going?
They're not. That's the problem. The union stopped all negotiations a week ago, after that awful lynching took place.
Aha.
Now they won't even let me into the harbour. There's a 2-meter-20 racist behemoth blocking the gates.
Bysior. Ponad 2-metrowy.
What can I say? The union employs a giant covered in tattoos. A racist giant. I guess that's part of their big tent organization now. Let's say I was not making the kind of progress I'd hoped for when I first arrived.
And when did you first arrive?
I arrived 3 weeks ago. Yes, in the middle of February. The bay was still partially frozen then. I prefer to do these things on site, like the RCM.
Czyli teraz mamy marzec, tak?
But the strike began in December.
I wasn't the original negotiator here. I took over after Mr. Gaumont hit a wall with Mr. Clare, the union boss. Mr. Clare refused to speak with Gaumont despite concessions he'd granted the union in prior negotiations.
This isn't the first time the union has gone on strike.
Heavens no. There have been 2 prior strikes. Both times the union won significant concessions, including overtime pay and a medical plan. This time their demands are more, I guess you could say, aggressive. There are leaflets everywhere, and banners. What did they say again? Oh yes. Every worker, a member of the board.
Każdy pracownik. Członek Rady Nadzorczej. Aha!
In its defense, another said, demand democracy. Pretty tame stuff compared to every worker, a member of the board. Fortunately, they explained it. Every time the Wild Pines group makes a decision about anything, it needs the signature of each of the 2,200 workers in its Martinez terminal. Just so you understand, this is but one of 22 terminals owned by Wild Pines. Essentially, not only are they kings of the company, they are also kings of the 72,000 employees of Wild Pines Group.
No... Robotnicy nie mogą być królami. Królem jest król. No, poniekąd tak. Wszyscy nie mogą rządzić, bo to trochę jest wtedy... bałagan, bym powiedział. To jest zabawne. To tylko jeden z... Tak, na szczęście to wyjaśnili. Gdy grupa Wild Pines podejmuje jakąś decyzję, jakąkolwiek, potrzebne są podpisy wszystkich 2200 pracowników terminalu Martinez. Żeby miał pan pełen obraz sytuacji, to tylko jeden z 22 terminali będących własnością Wild Pines. W zasadzie są więc oni nie tylko królami firmy, ale także 72 000 jej pracowników. No to średnio raczej.
That may well be. It's not up to me to decide who is king, but as negotiations go, it's not a swell start.
Co zamierza
I'm
pani
not
zrobić?
sure. Naturally, I assume that was just their opening position, a hard-nosed tactic with a side of mockery. But there's been no follow-up, just the same nonsensical slogan repeated over and over again. And now, people are getting lynched, I hear. Behind the whirling in rags. A disastrous situation if there ever was one.
Excuse me, from whom did you hear about this lynching?
I first heard it from the bowyer at the gates. The one whose very name advertises his aversion to work. I think he said it was, call me mañana.
Przy bramie. Jej odpowiedź jest natychmiastowa. Ten, który nawet w swoim imieniu wyraża awersję do pracy. To było, zdaje się, mów mi mañana.
This checks out.
To by się zgadzało. Dobra.
Mr. Clare told him to... How did he put it? Fuck off, midget. Gaumont is short of stature, you see.
Bardzo to nie fajne. Czadowo.
Keep in mind, this is a negotiator Mr. Clare has worked with before, and who was more than fair with him and the union.
Sounds like usual aggressive posturing.
Łami strajki u bram, to wy ich tam... Łami strajki u bram? Co tym nie wiem na przykład. O tym szefie związku.
Everard Clare is a man of the utmost integrity. If you can say one thing about him, it's that he always puts the interests of the workers first.
Okej.
Of course not. Everard is fantastically corrupt. I imagine he has a thick, viscous goo where you and I have blood. He is the most corrupt individual I have ever seen, and I deal with men like him for a living. If there is anyone more venal, more irredeemably nepotistic, then it's his twin brother, Edgar.
Zaraz, jest ich dwóch?
Yes. Edgar looks exactly like his brother, except for that lazy eye. He also talks exactly like Everard does, and when one's term as foreman is up, the other takes over.
Okej.
It's how they circumvent the term limits, you see, with a funny little switcheroo. While in office, they've embezzled God knows how much of their workers' dues. The Débardeurs Union was once a perfectly normal institution. 20 years ago, anyway. It must not have been easy to establish under the Emergency Act, but they did it. I can respect that. Organised labour at its best, as they say. Then something happened in the local chapter elections. The brothers Clare came and transformed it into a... how do you say...
Przez chwilę szuka właściwego wyrażenia.
A mob. The Débardeurs are a crime syndicate. Sad as it may be, I suspect we'll be forced to cooperate with them.
O, okej. Debarderowie.
Refreshingly honest, officer. The company has tried appeasing in the past, but I'm afraid our concessions have only emboldened Everard and his brother. And your opinion, detective, if I may ask? I'm a curious and talkative person, you see. Would you say the Débardeurs Union is... Of course, officer. I'm glad you asked. There was a woman, the previous forewoman of the Union. She disappeared.
O, to ciekawe.
Disappeared?
Yes. On the last day of the local chapter elections, her daughter phoned in and said she wasn't running anymore, or coming to work. Ever. End of story.
Może to jest ta babeczka, do której dzwoniliśmy.
Downright haunting, if you ask me. The Wild Pines suspected foul play, but what could they do? It was a union matter. The point of the presentation is, these kinds of things happen around the Clares. Watch out when you're dealing with him.
No dobrze.
Thank you for your concern, ma'am. We'll be just fine.
Jakie łami strajki? No ja nie zapytam o to, bo...
Of course. How else can I help? Quite
Ten
a few
link.
things, I'm afraid.
Milknie na chwilę, zamyśla się nad czymś.
The information I'm to share with you includes sensitive trade secrets. For the sake of my employer, I have to ask for your names and badge numbers.
Of course, ma'am. We should have introduced ourselves. I am Lieutenant Kitsuragi, from Precinct 57. And this is my colleague from Precinct 41. I'm afraid he doesn't have his badge at the moment. I hope mine will suffice.
How curious. Why is that, detective?
Ciekawe. Oddaję porucznikowi odznakę.
Awkwardness washes over the conversation. The woman doesn't like this turn of events.
I see. So, are you saying you lost your badge during the course of this episode? I can't hear you, darling. Speak up, please.
No i Jeny, chcę Równie dobrze nie pamiętam niczego. Tego świata, tego miejsca, niczego.
Oh dear. Some kind of encephalopathic amnesia. I don't even know how to respond. I do believe you, naive as that may sound. I simply can't imagine what you gain by faking such a condition.
As I said, ma'am, his technique may be very unconventional, but he is an officer of the RCM.
Of course, I sympathize, but I'm afraid I simply can't share anything more until I've seen that badge.
Kurde.
Hang on. She's a professional negotiator. She should be open to some
Jak
sort of
mogę
mutually
wywinąć się
beneficial arrangement.
z tego negocjacjami?
She's a negotiator. Just float a favor at her.
I will be frank with you. If I'm going to break protocol, I need to be able to justify it to my superiors. They're going to want to see something very tangible.
You're in, but expect her to drive a hard bargain.
Reports from inside Terminal B suggest it's a hub for the local drug trade. This is an open secret in Martinez. The Union controls the terminal, so it goes to reason.
Pod kontrolą związku.
They're profiting from this trade.
The company has tried looking into this matter before, to no avail. Perhaps someone with your authority and resources might turn over the right stones. Or you can recover your badge, though if I may be blunt with you, it sounds like that may be a lost cause.
A skąd wiesz?
Detective, a word in private before we continue.
Tak. Co chciałeś?
This is not going quite as I hoped it would, Detective. Honestly, I was expecting you to use your unorthodox technique to keep her off balance and, not volunteer us to be her henchmen. This woman is running circles around us. She might have known about your misplaced badge all along, or she's simply an adept improviser. Either way, we've played straight into her hands.
Okej.
He doesn't let it show, but there is a limit to how much the consequences of your unprofessional behavior can cost the investigation.
No. If there is reasonable suspicion, we must investigate. Otherwise, she could claim we are siding with the Union, or that we are on their take. We'd never hear the end of it.
Okej.
What I propose is, we ask her, then we investigate, briefly. But do not share the outcome of this investigation with her. We tell her it's done and demand for her information on the lynching.
You're back. Good. What can I help you with? It's quite straightforward. Someone is using Terminal B to smuggle raw ingredients from the Samar and Isola into Revachol with the Union's blessing. Wild Pines has suspected it for years.
Ingredients for what, ma'am?
Meth and dextroamphetamine, GBL, and various synthetic psychedelics. Honestly, it might be quicker to say what you can't make from the stuff. Yes, after they clear the terminal, we lose track. The actual production is taking place at various sites in and around Jamrock Quarter, north of here.
Wild Pine seems to be well apprised of the local drug trade, ma'am. Do you mean to say the Union also produces the product? Sells drugs, I mean?
We're in logistics. It's our business to know. And no. As far as the company knows, the Union does not produce it. They transport the ingredients for a cut. Yes, but you won't get anything out of Evrat and the Dock Workers Union. Still, Every chain has its weak link. The lorries. Someone needs to move the ingredients from the harbour into the city. Once they reach Jamrock, they're distributed to a network of local manufacturers well beyond our grasp. But in transit, they are vulnerable. Perhaps you've noticed that a number of lorries are tangled in a traffic jam at the roundabout just now. Interview the drivers who are still hanging about. One of them might be waiting for a crucial shipment. I'll be explicit. If you find this driver, I will share company secrets with you.
You'll be indebted to her, in a way, but one step ahead of the Union in another.
No. We asked East Motor Track to raise the drawbridge. The road company is a partner of one of our subsidiaries. However, this is a limited time opportunity. Once the complaint has been processed by the Trade Committee, they'll have no choice but to lower the drawbridge, and the operation will continue. Thousands of litres of raw ingredients will pour onto the streets of Revachol. Not the east across the river, but the west. The vulnerable, the weary.
Well, at least this solves one mystery.
What is that, Lieutenant?
Why I had to call East Motor Track and beg them to open a drawbridge for me. I'd wondered since I first drove in, on my motor carriage.
I am sorry for the inconvenience, Lieutenant Kisaragi, but we need them trapped here. This is a unique opportunity. I'm sure you understand. How do you think they're financing this strike? There are thousands of unpaid dock workers going strong for the 4th month straight.
There was a shakedown of local businesses preceding the strike. Many were squeezed to bankruptcy to fund it.
With all due respect to these desert cacti, the contents of a few cash registers cannot provide for 2,000 men. The local businesses can scarcely provide for themselves.
A więc sądzi pani, że strajk jest finansowany z pieniędzy za składniki narkotyków?
Precisely. Smuggled out of that very gate at night, most likely, then loaded onto lorries and driven to Jamrock. You simply need to find one driver who will open up to you.
It sounds like she tried looking into it herself, though she's clearly not the type your typical lorryman would confide in.
No tak.
Yes? Excellent. According to my reports, there are at least 3 lorry drivers lingering near the roundabout. Hopefully one of them will know something. It may come to nothing, or it may just blow the case wide open. I can keep the drawbridge up for a few more days at least. You should have the time you need. In the meantime, let me know if there's any other way I may be of assistance.
Okej.
Of course, Detective. Take care.
No to ciekawe, jeszcze się okazuje, że to jest jakaś sprawa związana z przemytem, znaczy, no, z przemytem, powiedzmy, składników do wykonywania narkotyków, do produkcji narkotyków. To co?
Yeah, you better keep walking.
A. Momencik, bo tu są rzeczy. Buteleczki. Będę bogaty. Tak się rodzi moje imperium. To przejrzałem. O, przedmiot leczący, to fajnie. No dobrze. I tutaj skończę nagrywanie, bo zaczął się kolejny ciekawy wątek. Tym razem związany z narkotykami, tak jak już wcześniej powiedziałem, i będziemy sobie to sprawdzać w takim razie. O, ciekawa to jest sprawa. Kurczę, dochodzi tutaj.
Yeah, you better keep
A ile mi zostało czasu? Który dzisiaj jest? No dobra. To ja sobie zapiszę. I zapraszam na kolejne nagranie. Może na pewno pójdę jeszcze tutaj do góry do tej babeczki, a później przesłucham tych powesze wśród tych kierowców. Z jednym już rozmawiałem, ale nie kojarzę, żeby on coś mówił ciekawego, ale może teraz po tej rozmowie z tą babeczką będzie miał jakiś dodatkowy dialog. No zobaczymy. Na razie i do usłyszenia. Cześć.